Police officers are entrusted with enormous amounts of responsibility and the power to carry out those responsibilities. Individuals can be stopped, detained, questioned, searched, and arrested by the police. They are given firearms and are authorized to use force, including lethal force, in the performance of their duties. Hi, my name is Philip Wynn, and this is Learn Laws, a capstone project created by my inspiration to help educate young and old Canadian citizens when it comes to the Canadian Criminal Code and its rights and freedoms. Every day, Canadians come in contact with the police, whether as victims, witnesses, suspects, or members of the general public. The way we are treated by the police, the rights we have in those interactions, and the solutions available when our rights are violated by those in power are all reflected in the state of our democracy. In our society, police have unique powers, including the ability to use force. To guarantee that individuals and communities are treated with respect and dignity, these policing capabilities require extensive public scrutiny and monitoring. It is critical to have reliable, transparent systems of accountability in place to effectively ensure that police and other government actors do not abuse the power granted them over citizens. So, when can a police officer use his gun? When fleeing arrest. When someone tries to avoid being arrested by a police officer, a distinct issue arises. It is critical that the police understand if this person under arrest has committed a felony or misdemeanor. The use of deadly force by an officer to stop a fleeing subject during questioning or arrest is never appropriate when the subject has committed a misdemeanor. The officer will not be excused if one of the bullets accidentally strikes the fugitive, even if the officer is the only one shooting at him, to scare him into stopping. The officer would be wise to keep his gun in his holster in this scenario of this nature. When it's a felon, though, the circumstances are different. The police officer has the right to use force to stop the fight if they have reason to believe the person they are trying to arrest has committed a felony. However, even a felon's life should not be taken lightly, and the use of lethal force against them is not justified by the law unless it's necessary to make the arrest. Therefore, the officer should try everything possible to alert the fugitive that a law enforcement officer is looking for him before opening fire. This means that before drawing the gun, they should utilize their voice, blow a whistle, or even sound a siren. The police officer must only use their gun as a last resort to protect themselves. If there is another technique to make this arrest, it should be used instead of killing the criminal. When an officer tries to apprehend a misdemeanor, the suspect may attack the officer and run away. The police may be treated the same way as any other felon if the assault was a felony. Another scenario is resisting arrest. Resisting arrest is defined as an action taken by a person to prevent a peace officer from lawfully conducting a search or performing an arrest. It's also a crime to try to prevent an officer from transporting a suspect. An officer may find himself in a position when someone is resisting arrest. The arresting person's crime type must be known to the police to comply with the current legal requirements. In most states, an officer is not allowed to use deadly force when attempting to make an arrest for a misdemeanor. The fact that a misdemeanor is a minor crime and that resistance does not put the arresting officer in danger of death or serious bodily damages justifies not killing the misdemeanant, is the justification for this restriction on the officer. However, in other areas, the use of fatal force by a police officer to subdue a suspect who was resisting arrest has been upheld by the courts. The justification for those judgments appear to be that the police officer must use appropriate force to make the arrest, because it is his responsibility to be the aggressor. However, the officer would be best advised to refrain from using his gun in such cases, unless he is convinced that his state in which sure is permissible because most states have outlawed the use of deadly force in making an arrest of a misdemeanor. If the arrestee is resisting arrest after committing a crime and the arrest is legal, the police officer may use deadly force to subdue the subject. However, it is crucial to keep in mind two things when using such force. First, make sure the person who's being arrested is aware that he is being detained by a law enforcement official, and that using such force is the only way to make the arrest or control the criminal. If the arrest could have been achieved without use of such great force, an officer is not justified in killing a felon. Self-defense, on the other side of the officer, frequently comes up when someone resists arrest. The officer is justified in shooting the suspect in self-defense whenever the criminal's behavior is such that it gives rise to an honest fear of death, or serious bodily damage in the officer's mind. Two conditions must be met to use this privilege. The officer must believe that his life is in danger, and the situation must warrant such a belief. Even if a suspect resists or flees arrest, it all comes down to behavior. As a police officer, they are more at risk. Law enforcement officers face many different dangerous and stressful situations in their line of duty. Some, such as gun violence, and our obvious other dangers, like for example fatigue, are hidden, but common and can greatly hinder officer performance. Officer performances is also affected by training and other factors. As a police officer is pursuing a suspect, emotions are high. They must expect the unexpected at all times, be aware of their surroundings, and always be on guard. This can cause a lot of uncertainty as they are on duty. As a civilian, you must be aware of the training that they can have gone through, that a police officer is always fearing for their life in the line of duty. If a suspect is acting mysterious, the situation can be scary. The police officer does not know what they're capable of, which can cause them to be scared themselves and can result in unforeseen circumstances. To protect themselves from this, RCMP must follow annual training. RCMP officers take into account, whenever possible, other significant risk factors before using a conducted energy weapon. For example, officers need to consider a subject's known health concerns, for example, health condition or pregnancy, surrounding environments, for example, falling from a significant height or into deep water, or the presence of flammable substances. RCMP members need to re-certify every year to carry a conducted energy weapon. RCMP policy regarding the use of a conducted energy weapon is clear. Officers can only use it, according to their training, under the principle of the Incident Management Intervention Model, or when a person is causing or may soon cause themselves or someone else harm. RCMP officers are trained in use de-escalation and crisis intervention techniques before using a conducted energy weapon. When using a conducted energy weapon, an RCMP officer actions must be reasonable, and their intervention must be necessary for the circumstances. Officers who use an intervention option must clearly report why they took the action they did based on the situation, when, where, and how the event took place. Supervisors and managers of the RCMP are responsible for ensuring all subject behavior that officer response reports are filled correctly, and all relevant RCMP conducted energy weapon policies and procedures were followed. Thank you to listening for the third episode of Learn Laws. Any questions? You can comment them down below. Like what you're hearing? Don't forget to like and subscribe for future episodes.